Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra, because we are on a Friday. Oh my goodness me. It's the end of the working week. Where did that go? Absolutely, it's shot by again. And I'm just seeing, why isn't the blurred background working? None. Let's try that again. It's not working tonight. Never mind. What are we reading? We are reading the brilliant Scottish Ghosts, which is very, very good. Very good book. What are we drinking tonight? Well, it's a two-beer strategy tonight. We are kicking off with, from the beer subscription, we've got Upstream Irish Beer, Whitewater, since brewing company since 1996. So this is Hoppelhammer. And I'll read you the blurb. It says, our adventure got up and flowing on the banks of the Whitewater in 1996, upriver in the mountains of Mourne on our fifth generation family farm. We did our first brew in my grandfather's shed. Ever since, we've been doing what we like. Pouring the beer all over the floor here. Ever since, we've been doing what we like, trying what we think we'll like, and making beer we hope you'll like. Like this triple hopped IPA packed with American hops and fruit aromas. It's banging, full bodied, and flavorful. And that's from the Whitewater Brewing Company, Clark Hill Road, Castlewellan, County Down, all over the floor. So we'll pour some of that, shall we? Just trying to work out why the blurred background isn't working tonight. Stop show dead in its tracks to try and work out why the background isn't working. None. Okay, blurred background. We've got it on full. Actually, let me just check to make sure, see what the camera is working correctly. FaceTime. Camera's working fine. It doesn't matter. That's just me being a bit OCD tonight. Me being a bit OCD, really? Visual effects, blur intensity. Oh, there we go. That's a bit better. It's a bit blurrier. So, in case you're wondering where his derpy lurpiness is, there he is on the pillow. So, shall we crack on Mitt the Ghost Stories? All right, my camera's a bit blurry. Not blurry. It's, yeah, that's fine. What did you do on Friday night? I tuned in to watch Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra, and all he was doing was faffing around with the controls and things. So, right, here we go. Dunvegan Castle. Dunvegan Castle on the Isle of Skye is famous not for haunting as such, but for the precious fairy flag, which is kept in the castle. An extremely old, discoloured and worn piece of material. It hardly resembles a flag at all, but is said to possess remarkable supernatural power. Dunvegan is the seat of the MacLeod clan, and their attachment to the fairy flag stems from the ancient belief that if the MacLeod family is ever in dire peril, the flag, if unfurled, will protect them from harm. This superstition has been given weight by the fact that on two separate occasions in history, the flag was unfurled in battle, and the MacLeod clan and their soldiers were able to overcome their enemies in spite of what had seemed to be insurmountable odds. How the flag came into the possession of the family is a matter of some debate, but one story tells of a party in the castle many years ago. The nursemaid, who was left in charge of the baby of the family, left the child for a few moments to watch the revelries, and while she was gone, the child kicked off its covers. When the nurse returned, she found that the child had been covered up by the fairies with the fairy flag. When she picked up the child in its new silken cover, fairy voices were heard telling the MacLeod family that if ever the flag was unfurled in battle, the enemy would see twice as many MacLeod clansmen as were actually facing them. The flag could only be used 3 times, for whoever tried to use it a 4th time would disappear along with the flag. The fairy flag has been used twice, and no one will want to have to use it a 3rd and final time. But its very presence in Dunvegan is considered by many to be some sort of lucky talisman in itself. Bum, bum, bum. I think it's beer time. It's definitely a beer time. Slange me, everybody. So this is Hoppelhammer. Pour the rest of it out. I didn't tell you what its ABV was. I think it's about 4.5. Let's have a look. Its ABV is 6%. Goodness me. That's a strong one to start off with. And we're only 7 minutes into the show, and already we have a dead soldier. And run, VT.
Oh, it's jolly nice of you. Hello, dead soldier. Seen plenty of those in my time.
Ethie Castle. Ethie Castle, about 5 miles from the town of Arbroath, is now the home of the Forsyth family. All right, me lambs? The castle, as it stands today, dates from the early 15th century, pretty much when Brucey was born. But there was undoubtedly another building on the site before the present one was constructed. Cardinal Beaton, abbot of Arbroath in the 15th century, commissioned the building of the present castle, and his ghost is said to haunt the place still. He lived at Ethie for several years, and Marion Ogilvy, his mistress, also lived there. Cardinal Beaton was a powerful figure in the Catholic Church and a fierce prosecutor of those of the Protestant faith. He had many enemies. His life came to a violent end in St Andrews on the 29th of May, 1546, which is about 3:45, when he was brutally murdered by Protestant nobles in the castle there. The coast of Cardinal Beaton parades slowly round Ethie Castle, particularly in the area close to his bedchamber. The sound of Cardinal Beaton's footsteps is quite unmistakable. His gouty leg thumps and scrapes as it drags along the passageways behind him. There was another ghost at Ethie Castle, that of a young child. The child could be heard crying sometimes at night. In addition to this, witnesses had heard what sounded like a wheeled toy being pulled across the floor in one particular room in the castle. Eventually, investigations were carried out to discover the source of the strange sounds. A small skeleton was discovered, and alongside it, the remains of a toy wooden cart. The skeleton was removed from the castle and given a Christian burial. The ghost of the child was no longer heard at Ethie. That's a ghost story with a happy ending. These all seem fabulously familiar to me, but I haven't read this book before. So I'm just having a look to see. Oh my goodness, we've got a couple here that are about 3 pages long. What are we up to? 11 minutes. Not quite bump time yet. So slange me, everybody, in the magnificent Rush beer glass. Thank you, viewers, Kirsten and Steve in the United States. Cheers, me beers. I don't know about you, Derpy, but to actually have to have the fire on in the middle of May, it's... Anyway. Gate Castle. Oh, no, sorry. Fyvie Castle. Fyvie Castle in Aberdeenshire was once the haunt of a green lady who is now, it is thought, finally at peace in the afterlife. Her appearances began sometime around 1920, after a strange and unpleasant fungal mass appeared on one of the walls in the castle's gun room. The owner of the castle, Lord Leith, brought in builders to put matters to rights. And when they removed part of the wall, they discovered a skeleton. The skeleton was removed from the area and the haunting of the Green Lady began. Anxious to put a stop to the disturbing appearances of the Green Lady, the Laird insisted that the skeleton be replaced behind the wall, which was then rebuilt. This might have seemed a little bizarre, but it turned out to have the desired effect. Behind the wall was just where this mysterious phantom wanted to be, it would appear, for she stopped causing any trouble to the inhabitants of the castle from that time onwards. I think that deserves a from that time onwards. Must remember to deploy the sound effects a bit more often. Slimes me while, what are we up to? 13, still not quite bump time, so. Did we show you the Hoppelhammer beer? I think we did. There we go. Very nice. Guyt Castle. Guyt Castle is in Aberdeenshire. Guyt Castle in Aberdeenshire has a story attached to it that is almost identical to the story of the ghostly piper of Edinburgh Castle. The piper is said to have entered a secret tunnel, playing his pipes, and never to have returned. Guyt Castle dates from the 15th century, but there seems to be no record of the year or century in which the piper was supposed to have disappeared. As in the case with the piper in Edinburgh Castle, there is no mention of anyone having gone into the tunnel to look for the poor fellow after he disappeared. A third version of this tale is told in connection with Culross Abbey. Still not quite bump time. Right, this next one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages long. Goodness me. Right, let's crack on, shall we? Glamis Castle. Glamis Castle, a monstrous edifice with looming towers and a gloomy atmosphere, looks as if it ought to be haunted. And haunted it is, perhaps more so than any other place in Scotland. It is now the family seat of the Bowes-Lyons, Earls of Strathmore. Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, then Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, lived at Glamis as a child, and in 1930, Princess Margaret, sister of Queen Elizabeth II, was born there. The castle, although peaceful now, has a colourful past, and from time to time, spectres from that past The castle, although peaceful now, has a colourful past, and from time to time, spectres from that past return to haunt the living. Both a grey lady and a white lady have been seen to wander the castle. The grey lady is most frequently seen around the area of the chapel, and there seems to be no definite idea as to her identity. The white lady, who appears very infrequently, is thought to be the ghost of Janet Douglas, who lived in the 16th century and was the wife of John VI, Lord Glamis. John died, and Janet remarried, settling with her new husband, Campbell of Skipness, at Glamis. The king at the time, James V, hated the Douglas clan, the powerful family to which Janet belonged. As an act of what only could be construed as pure obsessive hatred, James had Janet captured and imprisoned in Edinburgh Castle on charges of witchcraft and conspiracy to poison the king. Her husband and son were imprisoned along with her. After several years' imprisonment, Janet was burned at the stake on Castle Hill. Her husband died in a bungled attempt to flee from the castle, and her son, Lord Glamis, was kept imprisoned until after the death of James V. Ghostly stories are also told of what befell the Ogilvy family. I think Return of the Saint probably did for them. At Glamis Castle in its early days. The Ogilvys were engaged in a bitter and deadly dispute with the Lindsay family, and one day found themselves having to call upon Lord Glamis for refuge. He duly let them into the castle and hid them, as they thought, safely in a secret chamber within the walls. Unfortunately, the Ogilvys had not chosen as safe a sanctuary as they had hoped. Lord Glamis had no intention of letting them out again, for, like the Lindsays, he too despised them. His treatment of them was, whatever he might have felt for them, grossly barbaric. He locked the door of the secret chamber and turned away, never to return. The poor members of the Ogilvy family were left to starve to death and rot in their hidden location. Nothing more was known of the fate of the Ogilvys until centuries later, when one Earl of Strathmore accidentally happened upon the room in which the Ogilvys had been condemned to live out their last painful days. It is said that when the Earl opened the door and discovered the rotted skeletal contents of the hidden chamber, he fainted with horror and disgust. We'll have a beer and a bump time. What are we up to? Yeah, 18 minutes. Beer and a bump time. Must try and say beer without going a bit West Country, because I go beer. So, slide me, everybody. Oh, we haven't got anything in there. Goodness me, right, that's a good start to the show. So the bump element is going to be the Western Gold Honey. Goodness me, JM, you are losing it. Like I say, it's been a long week. It's been a long, stressful week. I'm supposed to be avoiding stress, so anyway, slide me bar. Oh, that hits the spot. Beardy is another ghost of Glamis with a story that is also linked to the existence of some sort of hidden chamber. Accounts differ as to exactly who Beardy was. Some say he was the first Lord of Glamis, others that he was in fact the Earl of Crawford. Whichever he was, and still is by all accounts, the story goes that he was a gambling man with a violent temper. Unable to find anyone to play cards with him late one Saturday night, as the sacred Sabbath approached, Beardy announced that he would quite happily play cards with the devil himself if challenged to do so. Right on cue, a dark stranger appeared and offered to take Beardy on in a card game. The two men retired to a chamber to play. The servants in the castle were intrigued by the noises of shouting and swearing that they could hear coming from the room. It appeared that Beardy was losing, and losing badly at that. One servant, unable to contain his curiosity, put his eye to the keyhole, only to jump back in pain, having been blinded by a shooting dart of flame. Got the beer hiccups here, folks. Oh, it's the beer burps, actually. 21 minutes. There we go. Oh, I do apologise. That had to come. Beer burps at 21 minutes. And we're up to 21:12. Bam, bam. Beardy emerged from the chamber, raging at the interruption. When he stormed back into the room to continue the game, the stranger had disappeared. The devil had gone, but he had taken with him the soul of Beardy, which the rash lord had gambled away. It seemed as if Beardy was condemned to play cards for eternity, for after his death, some 5 years later, the room was in constant turmoil with the sounds of cursing, swearing card players. The story goes that after some years, the chamber was sealed up in an attempt to stop the activities of the phantom, Beardy. But his ghost, a fearsome creature complete with straggly beard, is still said to appear in certain places in the castle from time to time, and the sounds of raucous card playing can still, on occasion, be heard. How many more pages we've got to go? Yeah, well, I think we'll have another beer and a bump, I think. Ah, Slange. The first black ghost in Scotland is said to live in Glamis Castle. He is said to be the spirit of a much abused servant boy and is sometimes seen sitting on a stone seat just outside the Queen Mother's sitting room. Some say the child was ordered to sit there and wait until he was told what to do next. Terrified at the thought of the consequences of disobedience, the little boy did just that, but was forgotten about and left there overnight. Being a very lowly servant, he was poorly clad, especially for the rigours of the Scottish climate, and having been left to sit in a freezing corridor for hours on end, he died of hypothermia. Other ghosts that have been seen at Glamis Castle include the gruesome apparition of a woman with no tongue, who flits across the grounds with her mouth open and bloody, a dark figure dressed in what appears to be a military coat, and a fleeting figure who is seen in the grounds, albeit briefly, for he runs so fast, known as Jack the Runner. The woman with no tongue is thought to have been witness to some ghastly deed and to have had her tongue cut out to ensure that she kept her silence. Just who the other two might be, nobody knows. The greatest intrigue at Glamis concerns another secret room. Sorry, read that again. The greatest intrigue at Glamis concerns another secret room story and a monster story. At some time there is supposed to have existed, locked up in a secret chamber somewhere within the walls of Glamis Castle, a monster. Accounts vary as to just who or what the monster is supposed to have been and when it came into being, but all seem to indicate that the monster was in fact a family member. There are theories that the monster was in some way connected to Patrick, 3rd Earl of Strathmore. Those who follow this line of thinking point to a picture of Patrick that hangs in the castle. In the painting at Earl Patrick's side is an armour-clad figure of unknown identity, which looks as if its arms and body are strangely deformed. The theory does not make a lot of sense, for if the monster was so terrible that it had to be kept hidden away from the outside world under lock and key, why did the Earl of Strathmore have it included in a painting? We'll look that up at halftime. Other accounts of the existence of a monster, or at least a grossly deformed human being, or a reform MP as we call them these days, suggest that the creature might have been the first son of the 11th Earl of Strathmore. The 12th Earl, Thomas, was born in 1822, but records apparently show that another son was born to the 11th Earl and his wife in 1821, a son who'd supposedly died just after birth. The story goes that this son did not in fact die, but was so horribly deformed that the family had to keep him hidden from public view. The child's younger brothers did not even know of his existence until they came of age, when, as a sort of gruesome rite of passage, they were each allowed to discover the location of the secret room. When they had been taken there, the awful truth was revealed to them. The secret of that hidden chamber was never revealed to any woman, apparently, and was known only by 3 men at any one time. Those who became privy to the secret were said to have been shocked to the core, changed men from that day onwards. Rumour has it that the monster lived until about 1921. If he was born in 1821, he reached the age of 100, a surprisingly ripe old age for someone to live to at the turn of the 19th century. If the monster was born around the time of Patrick, the 3rd Earl, then the theory defies belief. Tales of the existence of a secret room hidden within the walls of the castle, for whatever purposes, are quite believable, for in places the walls are as much as 4 meters thick. Visitors to the castle have been known to try to find the location of the room by hanging towels out of the windows of all the rooms that they could find. In theory, one window without a towel hanging from it would be the window of the secret room. Some say that the location of the secret room is still known, and that still only 3 people living at any one time are privy to the secret. Whatever the contents of the secret room, monster, monstrous remains, or something else, its story has attracted a great deal of interest and much speculation over the years. Visitors to the castle at various times in the past century and before have made claims that their sleep has been disturbed by the most awful sights and sounds. And to this day, there is a walkway on the roof known as the Mad Earl's Walk, which is rumoured to be haunted by terrible noises. Here it is said the poor creature, the dreadful, hideous family secret, was taken under cover of darkness for exercise. We are coming up to half time. You know, we are so close to half time. I think we might string this out for a few more seconds, and then we might go looking, see if we can find that portrait actually. So, slimes me for everybody. Cheers, me beers. Oh, lovely. And I just had some fan mail turned up. Who's fan mailing me? It's friend Rob. Hello, friend Rob. Right, we're coming up to the halftime mark. Ba-ba, that's it. We are at halftime. So we're going to look up that portrait, see if we can find it. So let's have a look. I should have marked it with a pencil or something. Here we go. Earl Patrick, 3rd Earl of Strathmore portrait. Let's have a look, shall we? So Patrick, 3rd Earl of, there we go, 3rd Earl of Strathmore. Oh, the beer burps, do apologise. Portrait, that's not how you spell portrait, JM. So is this the portrait they're talking about? I need to read up on that again. Let's just give me some context. So In the painting at Earl Patrick's side is an armour-clad figure of unknown identity which looks as if its arms and body are strangely deformed. Right, that's not it. I'm trying to see these. I found paintings of Earl, Duke of Oil. Perhaps that's the one. No, that's not it. Let's have a look. Let's refine it with weird. Weird body. Let's try that. It's not. I will look into this a little further. Goodness me, put some clothes on, man. But this is the problem with trying to find images live on the old internet, is that you just fall down the rabbit hole and open image in new tab. Let's try that one again. Well, this is the only portrait I can find. So share screen. So let's just read the blurb again, and it says, in the painting at Earl Patrick's side is an armour-clad figure of unknown identity which look as if its arms and body are strangely deformed. There's nobody there with armour on. I'll look it up another time. I was hoping that would be bleeding obvious, but apparently not. Oh no, sorry. There we go. Let's add that to the screen. So yeah, that's the only one I can find, quite frankly. I don't think that's the one. So never mind. Right, half time. Half time. What have we been up to? Well, goodness me. We have been doing some retail therapy in the last couple of evenings, and I am especially grateful to my good friends Faye and Anne. So last night, myself and good friend Faye, we hit the retail areas of Weston-super-Mare and Worl. What did we do? We did farm foods and with the retail park in Worl. Always big laughs with me and Faye. She is such a positive source of energy. As you can tell there, I'm really enjoying myself. I am now, because I found a candle called Oral Whisper. And there we go. There's the back of my car full of shopping, which we'll come to in a second. Then when we got back to Faye's, I got some bubble tea as well, which I quite liked. That was a new experience for me. Then when we got back to Faye's, there's her cat, Batman. He's old, but he's lovely. Then she was sowing seeds for her herb garden. So I bought her a seed tray kit, and I bought some seeds for her as well. So hopefully she will have a lovely herb garden, which will be, I think it's mint, basil, coriander, and another one. And that was a honeybee that landed on the table, which I took a photograph of it. She said, "Oh, look, a wasp." I said, "No, that's a honeybee." Isn't that magnificent? Absolutely beautiful. And I got my birthday presents. Yes, we will talk about my birthday presents. So I've got my birthday presents here. Thank you, viewer Faye. So the first book she got me was this one, Walks for All Ages. And then the other book was, oh no, that's her camper van. The other one was this one, The A to Z of Curios, Somerset, which I've got here. And there we are. That's me and Faye. She's absolutely oh no, we haven't added these to the screen. For goodness sake, JM, get your act together. Let's try that again. There we are shopping. Goodness me. There we are shopping. Home Bargains. I'm enjoying myself. And that's me. I got her a candle. It's called Oral Whisper. Giggity. And that's the back of the car, full of shopping. Bubble tea. Very nice. I know her daughter's big into bubble tea, but new experience for me, but I quite liked it. Batman the cat. Faye sowing herbs. The bee that landed on the table, a honeybee, absolutely brilliant. iPhone photograph that, folks. And that's myself and Faye, my birthday present. So that was the first book, which we've got here, which we'll come to in a second. That's the back of a camper van. And that's the other book, which we'll come to in a second. And there we are, myself and Faye. She's lovely. She is absolutely brilliant. So the presents I got was this book, Walking for All Ages, 19 Circular Walks in Somerset, which I cannot wait to show Reg next week, because we are always looking for new walks. Oh, with Clevedon in there, actually. Clevedon Poets Walk. Oh, we've done that one many times. Breen Down, we've done that. No, we haven't done Breen Down, Reg and I, but we have done... we've done Axbridge. Oh, have we done Axbridge? Yes, we have done Axbridge. Glastonbury Tour. We haven't done that one yet. So, an absolutely brilliant book. So, thank you, Faye. But this one, the A to Z of Somerset, the A to Z of Curios, Somerset, strange stories of mysteries, crimes, and eccentricities. It's going to be a ghost stories read, this. Most of it is beautifully paced, and it's an A to Z. And yeah, it's, goodness me, Burnbeck Pier, which they're currently restoring. So yeah, this is going to be a... There's no ghost stories in this, but what the hell? We've done Sunday Night UFO stories, so I'm not going to split hairs. So that is going to be... That's definitely going to be read. So thank you, Faye. That was very kind of you. However, the retail adventures did not finish tonight, but we're just going to have some wasabi snacks. And it's got to be said, the wasabi snacks are also Faye's influence on me. Because that's from our trips to the Chinese supermarket outside of IKEA. So today I met up with friend Anne, and we did the local shops here. Again, B&M. What do we do? B&M, Aldi, Home Bargains, and Lidl. My favourite shops, pretty much. So there's myself and my friend Anne. Goodness me, I've known Anne for 24 years. Poor girl. Fancy knowing me for 24 years. And, oh, no, that's not the wrong one. Oh, I'm trying to get the camera to work. Right, that's not, it's not working tonight. Right, it is working now. So, yet again, my poor Binny got absolutely filled tonight with stuff. Admittedly, Anne did spend a lot more than me. I just got bits and pieces. I'm trying to see what we've got there. We've got bits from Lidl. I've got my croutons from Lidl. So pretty much everything you can see in the back of the car there is Anne. But we filled the back of the hatchback again. So I am that rare thing. I am a bloke that actually enjoys shopping. Bloody love shopping. So let's have some more wasabi mix. Let's shake it up a bit. So I'm just messaging friend Laura. Who's messengered me here? I've got. Oh, there we go. So that's been it. It's been a full-on week, ups and downs as usual. But we managed to finish off a lot of work this week as well, which is good. So we're up to speed on that. And hopefully over the weekend, FA Cup final tomorrow. Who's playing? Is it Chelsea and Manchester City? Oh no, I can't be bothered with that. But it is Opera on 3 tomorrow night. So it'll be some workshop time. Try and get some gardening done tomorrow. Got to pop round to see friend Anne again because she left some things of hers in my car. So I've got to go and grab them for her. That's about it. Can't think of anything else to talk about, quite frankly. My life is so dull. So that'll be the Science Me Var from this part of the show. Because now we can crack open the next bottle of beer, which is exciting stuff. So cheers, me beers. And the next beer tonight is this. I think this was Sainsbury's. Where was I the other night? Might have been Sainsbury's, might have been... It was Sainsbury's. Yeah, taste the difference. Chocolate and orange stout. Zesty orange, roasted chocolate, dark malts. Selected by our experts. Brewed and bottled by Hall and Woodhouse, Dorset, England. Oh, it's localish. Zesty orange, roasted chocolate, dark malts. This stout combines the finest roasted chocolate and crystal malts with subtle notes of dark chocolate and orange. The dark malts help deliver a full-bodied stout that is perfectly balanced with chocolate and orange notes to give a smooth, lasting mouthful that for that perfect indulgent winter drink. A great pairing with steamed chocolate pudding or vanilla torte. 5%, that's not too bad. Yep. Let's crack this open with the magnificent Rush bottle opener, again, courtesy of viewers Kirsten and Steve in the United States. Cheers, me beers. Now that's the thing, is the Love Lane beer that I get from Home Bargains, that's also a slightly kind of chocolate porter. But the good thing about Love Lane is it's only about £1.20 a bottle or something, a can rather. It's ridiculously cheap. So, oh, the beer burps again, do apologise. crack on. Hermitage Castle. Hermitage Castle, built in the mid-13th century, stands in moorlands south of the border town of Howick. Its rather bleak situation makes it a fitting site for ghostly haunts. Little remains of the building except a shell, but it does not take much imagination to conjure up pictures of all the things that might be lurking in its gloomy shadows. Its grim history is recalled by the appearances of two spectral figures in particular. The first ghost is that of Sir Alexander Ramsay, Sheriff of Teviotdale, who, in 1342, which is almost a quarter to two, incurred the wrath of Sir William Douglas, Knight of Liddesdale. The two had once been brothers in arms, but when King David II conferred the sheriffdom upon Ramsay, Douglas, who felt he had some claim to the title, was incensed. The unfortunate Ramsay was captured by Douglas in Howick, taken to Hermitage, and thrown into a dungeon in the castle. There he was left to starve to death. He was said to have tried to prolong his life by eating the few grains of corn that fell into the dungeon from the granary above. The sad, hungry figure of Sir Alexander Ramsay wanders around the ruins of the castle still. The second ghost that is said to haunt Hermitage Castle is that of Lord Soulis. Bad Lord Soulis, or Terrible William. Lord Soulis had a ghastly reputation indeed, for it was widely believed that he practiced black magic and used the dungeons of the castle to hold young children from the surrounding area captive before incorporating them into his hideous rituals and eventually murdering them. He finally faced justice at the hands of his neighbours. People from the surrounding area gathered in force and stormed the castle, taking him captive and binding him in chains. We are told that he was wrapped in lead and then thrown into a boiling cauldron to meet a horribly painful death. Another version of the story of Terrible William says that he had entered into a pact with the devil. He traded his soul in return for a license to live however he pleased, indulging in whatever debaucheries took his fancy. Then, as he grew older and faced up to the inevitability of his approaching death, he panicked at the thought of the fiery furnaces of hell. It was in order to protect him from this fate that he was wrapped in lead and boiled by loyal subjects. This story, however, seems even less credible than the first one. The figure of Terrible William has been seen around the grounds of the castle, and the screams of the children The figure of Terrible William has been seen around the grounds of the castle, and the screams of the children whom he abused so cruelly are also heard from time to time. Oh, that's grim. We don't like grim. Rest in peace. Oh, that's definitely chocolatey and orangey. That's rather surprising, actually. I wasn't expecting that. Oh, we got some fan mail. Who's the fan mail from? Oh, Slange. We need a top up of the Western Gold honey there. Oops, nearly overfilled that one. Oh, lovely. Linlithgow Palace. The stately ruins of Linlithgow Palace are now a popular visitor site protected by Historic Scotland. In days gone by, Linlithgow was a much favoured royal palace. King James V of Scotland, who was born in Linlithgow in 1512, which is almost 3:15, was said to have been particularly attached to the place, and he stayed there for long periods during his reign. Linlithgow is said to be haunted by the ghost of James V's wife. Linlithgow Palace is said to be haunted by the ghost of James V's wife, Mary of Guise. The ghost is seen in Queen Margaret's bower. Oh, another long one. Oh, well, I'm looking at 50. Yeah, well, I think we'll do this in sequence. I don't think we can cheat tonight, folks. So let's have some more. What did you do on Friday night? I tuned in to watch Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra on a Friday, but instead was treated to a confused man from Dudley crunching wasabi mix from Lidl. So that's quite nice, that orange and chocolate stout. Bit pricey from Sainsbury's, but that's because I'm cheap. Littledean Tower. Littledean Tower stands close to the village of Maxton in Roxburghshire. The building dates from the 15th century. It has long been uninhabited, but it was at one time the stronghold of the Kerr family. One laird of Littledean, who lived in the tower in the 17th century, had a particularly bad reputation. As indeed do I. Especially with burpee, not derpy. Burpee events like that. Right. The laird was, by all accounts, a thoroughly unsavoury character. He drank heavily, mistreated his family and servants, and took great pleasure in playing an active part in the persecution of Covenanters in the district. He had a violent temper, and it is said that on one occasion he became so angry with a stable lad who had saddled and harnessed his horse improperly that he trampled the poor lad to death. The laird enjoyed entertaining friends. The only people who could bear his company were those who shared his liking for excess and bad behaviour. They spent many raucous evenings drinking themselves incapable. Or doing a ghost story show. There we go. The laird's wife, Margaret, lived a miserable life. Her husband was undeniably cruel in his treatment of her. It seems, however, that she bore it all, for the most part, with remarkable dignity and stoicism. One evening, however, the laird overstepped the mark. He had, as usual, been drinking heavily with his companions, and one of them asked where Margaret was. It was her habit to keep well out of the way of her husband and his cronies at such times. The laird dragged Margaret from her room and down to the dining hall, where his visitors sat. He then proceeded to berate her and humiliate her in front of them. Margaret stood, confined by her husband's vicious grip on her arm, and suffered this treatment in silence. At length the laird let her go, unfettering as a final insult that he would rather be married to a woman from hell, for such a wife would have more warmth than the woman he had married. It was a terrible thing to say, and Margaret finally broke her silence in response to it. "You will live to regret these words," she said, before quietly leaving the room. Some fan mail's turned up. Let's just read the fan mail. Sorry, just doing some correspondence there. The laird's friends bade him good night and left Littledean, but the laird was too fired up with drink and bad temper to settle. He saddled up his horse and rode off into the darkness. Great band. After some time, he came to a cottage in a clearing in the woods. The door was open, and the laird could see a woman inside, sitting at a spinning wheel. He dismounted and approached. Pow! Almost the hour mark. His horse seemed strangely agitated as the laird got to the cottage door, and he had to hold its reins very firmly to prevent it from bolting. Looking into the cottage, the laird thought he could see shadowy figures moving in the corners, but it was too dark to make out what they were. He tried to speak to the woman. She did not respond in words to his greeting. Instead, she stopped spinning and turned to face him, still holding the newly spun thread between her fingers. With a maniacal laugh, she snapped the thread in two. The laird saw no more, for at that point his horse took such fright and pulled him away with such force that he almost had to let go of the reins. He regained control of the animal at last, mounted, and rode away. When he eventually arrived back at Littledean, he still had the picture of the woman in his mind. She had been the most beautiful creature he had ever laid eyes on. Just gone through the hour mark, folks. Slange. Oh, lovely. For the second time tonight, let's put the bookmark in. For the second time tonight, we have a dead soldier. And Run VT.
Oh, it's jolly nice of you. Hello, dead soldier. Seen plenty of those in my time.
Indeed, as I was trying to have some wasabi snack mix, but never mind. The next day, he found that in spite of himself, he was preoccupied with the woman in the cottage. He set off to try to find her. He rode for most of the day, trying to find the same path through the wood that he had taken the night before, but in spite of many hours searching, he was unable to find any sign of the cottage where he had last seen the woman. He returned to Littledean frustrated. As he approached his home, however, he caught sight of a graceful figure standing in a glade by the river. It was the very woman for whom he had been searching. She held out her arms to him in silence, and he went to her eagerly. The laird's obsession with the woman grew. Every night at the same time, just before dark, she would appear at the same place by the river. His desire for her was so great that the laird ignored any need for caution. There, within sight of his marital home, he indulged his passion for this strange woman night after night. It was inevitable that the affair would not remain a secret. The laird was seen with the woman, and Lady Margaret was told about it. She confronted him and threw her wedding ring in his face. The laird merely turned on his heel and walked away. Lady Margaret was ready to leave, but before she did, she wanted to find out who her husband's mysterious lover was. The two men volunteered to go and search for the woman on her behalf. That evening they went to the glade by the river where the laird and the woman had been meeting, and after some time they caught sight of her. As they moved towards her stealthily, hoping to entrap her, she disappeared. A hare sped away from the place where she had been seen and ran off into the distance. The two men returned to Lady Margaret to find her in a state of great consternation. The laird was missing. There was little point in mounting a search at this late hour, for it was too dark. They had no choice but to wait. It was far into the night when the laird's horse finally galloped up to the tower, carrying its master. The horse was sweating and exhausted. The laird was grim-faced and as white as a sheet. He was shaking as he told all those present what had happened to him. He had been riding towards home when he had caught sight of a hare running alongside his horse. Before long, the hare had been joined by several others, racing along beside him, in front of him, and behind him. They leapt around the feet of his horse, jumped up to saddle height. The laird had been very frightened and tried first to spur his horse on to outrun them, then to cut them down with his sword and trample them with the horse's hooves. His efforts were in vain, for his sword struck the paw of one hare, cutting it clean off. The paw had jumped in the air and landed in his pistol holster. The pack of hares had then suddenly withdrawn. By the time all this had happened, the laird had ridden all the way to the village of Midlem, a place notorious for witchcraft, and many miles from his home. He had spurred his horse into a gallop, and had neither stopped nor even slowed his pace when he reached the safety of Littledean. "Devils," he muttered through chattering teeth. "Devils." When he had told his tale, the laird put his hand into the pistol holster to feel for the hare's paw. He screamed, quickly withdrawing his hand from the holster and throwing something down on the ground. "It grabbed me," he cried. Lady Margaret looked down at the thing that her husband had thrown from his holster. It was not a hare's paw, but the bloody severed hand of a woman. I think we need a bear and a bump, folks. I haven't finished the story yet, but in the magnificent United Federation of Planet Shot Glass. Again, thank you, viewers, Kirsten and Steve in the United States. Slange me bar. The laird drew his sword and speared the hand. As he did so, it flexed very much as if it were alive. The laird took it, still impaled on his sword, out to the tower and made for the river. When he reached the water's edge, he hurled the bloody hand into the river's murky depths with all his might. He was very close to the spot where he and the mysterious woman had been meeting. Oh, the beer burp, still apologise. And when he had thrown the hand in the river, he turned around and saw her crouching beneath a tree. She lifted her head to look at him. To his horror, the laird saw that her face had been transformed into a hideous, wizened countenance with an evil leer. "You took my hand from me," she rasped. "Now it will be with you forever." The laird returned to the tower, still shaking. He collapsed into a chair by the fireside and put his hand into his pocket. The hand was there again. He threw it from the window in disgust and stumbled up to his bedchamber, hoping to find relief in sleep. But when he got into bed, he realized that he could feel something beneath the pillow on which his head lay. Putting his hand under the pillow, he withdrew the hideous hand. By this time, hysterical with fear, he threw the hand into the fire and hid himself beneath the covers. The laird did not appear downstairs the next morning. After some time, Lady Margaret sent servants up to wake him. Not a sound came from the laird's bedroom in spite of the servants' repeated knocking and calling. His door was locked, and they had to break in to gain entry. When they finally managed to enter the room, they found the laird lying on the floor. He was dead. His face, far from appearing peaceful, had a look of unimaginable terror. His neck was bruised, and the bruises appeared to be the marks of fingers around the laird's neck. He had been strangled by the hideous hand. That deserves a... That definitely deserves a... whatever that is. Thunderclap. Right, let's have some more wasabi snap mix. I did buy some more in Lidl tonight, thinking that I might need some extra, but turns out I'm still on the first ration, so... Strange. We're up to 1 hour and 10 minutes. I think this will be the last deux for tonight, or trois. McGurney Castle. The ghost of McGurney Castle in Perthshire seems quite unperturbed by her unusual appearance and is quite willing, it would appear, not only to appear to the living, but also to flirt with them. The room in the castle where the ghost has been witnessed is now known as the Haunted Room. And on more than one occasion, men who have been sleeping in the room have been woken by the sensation of being kissed on the cheek. Those who see the ghost are said to those who see the ghost are said to see either her top half or her bottom half, but never both together. The ghost is believed to be that of the wife of one of the chiefs of the Menzies clan. Her husband was profoundly jealous of the attentions that she attracted from other men and was forever accusing her of being unfaithful. His jealousy boiled over into uncontrollable rage one night, and he killed her. In order to dispose of the body, he cut it in half. He buried the top half of his wife in the tower and the bottom half in the churchyard. He then went abroad and on his return claimed that his wife had been with him but had died. It is said that the bottom half of the unfortunate woman parades around the lower floors of the castle and the grounds outside. The top half, meanwhile, stays upstairs and persists in teasing sleeping guests with ghostly kisses. I think this will be the last twa tonight. I think we need some more wasabi snack mix. Sounds pretty well. Or it might be a 3 bumper tonight. McGurney Castle. The ghost of McGurney Castle in Perthshire seems quite unperturbed by her unusual appearance and is quite willing, it would appear, not only to appear to the living, but also to flirt with them. The room in the castle where the ghost has been witnessed is now known as the No, we just read that one. Goodness me. We've had a beer and a bump, folks. That's the problem. Right, Muckles Castle. Scotland has a rich history of smuggling. Various places along its coastline were used in days gone by for the landing and concealment of contraband. Smuggling was not an activity confined to the lower classes. People from all walks of life succumbed to the temptation of avoiding the dreaded exciseman. Muckles Castle by Stonehaven had a tunnel that was a godsend to smugglers. It led underground. No kidding. It led underground. I think a tunnel above ground would be quite a thing. But anyway, it led underground from the castle to the shore and was used for storing wine and spirits and as a secret means of coming and going for all those who might need it. The cave at the far end of the tunnel was flooded at high tide, and it was here that a young lady of the family at Muckles met her death. She had gone down the smuggler's tunnel for an assignation with her sweetheart, who would be arriving by boat, but fell into the sea at the end of the tunnel and drowned. The ghost of the young woman is reputed to haunt one of the rooms in the castle. Like so many female ghosts, the figure of the young woman is green in colour. Right, I think this will be it for tonight. The beer burps again, do apologise. It's going to be a 3 bumper tonight, so we're not complaining. We do love the Western Gold honey. Oops, overfilled that one a bit. Soak that up a bit. Goodness me. Oh, it's been a long day, folks. Right. Last for tonight. Newton Castle. Newton Castle, Blair Gowrie, dates from the 14th century and is haunted by the ghost of Lady Jean. Her story is well known. She was Lady Jean Drummond and she fell desperately in love with a local laird. He dallied with her for a while, but had become. Try again. He dallied with her for a while, but had become distracted by another woman. In order to win back the affections of her beloved, Lady Jean did her very best to make herself attractive. She dressed in finest silks and satins, wore shoes with silver buckles, and adorned her braided hair with pearls and precious stones. The transformation in her appearance, however, was not enough to bring the heartless scoundrel back. She took to spending her time singing mournful songs of lost love as she sat alone in a tower of the castle. Eventually, she sought the advice of a local witch. The witch told her that her fine clothes were no good. She must dress in the witching clan of green. In order to do this, she must cut some grass from the churchyard, take a branch of a rowan tree from the gallows knowe, and bind them together with a plaited reed. Then she was to take them as darkness was falling to the Corby stone by the cobble pool and sit there and wait. This Lady Jean did. After waiting for some time, she became aware of the sound of laughter. She could feel a strange sensation, as if something was pulling at her clothes. She fell asleep, and when she awoke at dawn, she was dressed all in green. The magic of the witch had worked, for Jean married her great love, Lord Ronald, still wearing the witching claith. Her new husband was quite besotted with his bride in her strange green dress. The wedding ceremony had hardly taken place, however, than disaster struck. Lord Ronald looked at his bride and saw something was far wrong. He took her hand in his, but it felt deathly cold. Then, to his horror, Jean let out an unearthly scream, fell to the ground, and died. Her lifeless body was laid out on the bed where the wedding couple were to have consummated the marriage. Lady Jean was buried nearby, and her gravestone is said to turn round 3 times each Halloween. Then the sound of her sad singing comes wafting from the tower at Newton Castle. That'll be it for tonight. We do have a short one to read, but you know what? That's it. We need some supper and some Family Guy, quite frankly. So slange me well. Oh, your good health. Oh my goodness me. That's it for tonight. That's it for Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra on a Friday. So fingers crossed, we'll be back for Sunday Night Ghost Stories on a Sunday as nature intended. So until then, as ever, it behoves me to say thank you for watching. Why? Why not? What else are you going to do on a Friday night than watch a confused man from Dudley with holes in his head, drink ghost stories, and read alcohol? So until the next time, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay out of trouble, and please don't have nightmares. Good night.